ladies, gents, bats! Joker here. You're listening to the Bob Culture Podcast.
All right, guys, the spoiler ban has officially been lifted, and we are back here on the Bob Culture Podcast. I've been waiting over a week to finally talk about this, I'll say, masterpiece of a movie, Avengers Endgame. Dudes, I'm totally stoked. Guys, real quick before we get into it, got to introduce the panel. Of course, to my right, the man, the myth, the legend, hashtag next level, hashtag wrestlers love, Kriss Nunez. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kriss Nunez. What's up, bro? How are you?
What's going on, man? I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Dude, so stoked to talk about this one, man. Of course, we have Lord Vader himself, cosplayer and Star Wars and superhero aficionado, Mr. Kriss Francese. What's up, Kriss? How are you, bro?
Hey, bro, man. Thanks to be on again.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Thanks for coming back. And on the line, we have writer, director, and mostly Deadpool cosplayer in all his incarnations. Of course, Jeffrey Masella. What's up, bro? How are you?
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, dude, of course. Obviously, Infinity Gauntlet being your favorite comic book of all time. So I'm really, we talked about it a little bit at the theater, but I'm really interested to pick your brain about some of these characters, guys. So you guys ready to get into it? What do you think?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Rock and roll.
All right, guys. So as we said, as we always say here on the Bob Culture Podcast, spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
You have been warned.
You've been warned. Guys, honestly, if you haven't seen it by now, what are you doing? Right? Basically, the opening scene, we have Hawkeye, one of my personal favorites. And a lot of people don't really love Hawkeye. I think he's awesome. Obviously, we didn't see him in Infinity War. We had talked on the last podcast of kind of about him and Ant-Man being kind of written out with the one-liner, the house arrest line.
Yeah.
So this opening scene was actually one of my favorite parts of the movie.
It is. Yeah, it was one of mine too as well.
I love how I think Nunez and I were talking about it a little bit earlier. There was no music, if I recall correctly. There was really no music, and he's shooting the bow and arrow, obviously, with his daughter, who he refers to as Hawkeye, because he's very rarely referred to as Hawkeye in the films.
Yeah.
And then, he turns, and they're just not there. You kind of hear that silent thunder, or that very soft thunder in the background. Nunez, I think you said there was kind of like a... What was there, like a whistling or something?
Yeah, no, every time somebody gets dusted away, you kind of hear like a faint blow, like...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Really well done. That was beautiful. But basically, it was like kind of creepy in a way, we were saying.
Yeah.
And he just turns around, his whole family's gone. You see the dust, almost like a horror movie or something like that. But it was just like such an intense moment. Hawkeye's one of my favorite characters. I thought it was so awesome. And, something I thought they could use in some of the other Marvel shows, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with, characters disappearing. Obviously, we saw in Ant-Man and Wasp. I love how, like, all the MCU and the television shows connect. I wish there was more of it.
Yeah.
But it was really exciting. So just that first scene, it set the tone. It was just so cool. So what did you guys think about that opening scene? And then what did you guys think about Hawkeye through the movie? He doesn't get a bad rap, but I think people don't think he's too cool until this movie came around. We'll start with you, Nunez. Go ahead.
I definitely like Hawkeye. Hawkeye is a story arc in this movie, and I like him a lot more as a character after this movie. Yeah. I just like where it took him as far as, like, once his family disappeared, he kind of went down a dark path. Yeah. And they kind of had to pull him back. Like you said, though, this opening scene is one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Totally, man.
It's just it starts off very powerful, so...
Yeah, just like right out of the gate.
Yeah, right out of the gate, like waste no time.
Yeah. Kriss Francese, we got a lot of Chris's here today. Man, what do you think about that opening scene in Hawkeye?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a good start because it's just, reminds you of where we left off right from the beginning.
Yes.
Just the heartbreak.
Yeah, totally.
And, like, where people are being left off in this universe that, he just doesn't know what now. He's like, what am I going to do with myself?
Yeah, man. Crazy. Jazzy Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought you were right on point with, like, the lack of music because it seems like pretty haunting after it happens.
Oh, good word, haunting.
Yeah, I just love because basically the Hawkeye that we know now is like so far from like the whole Budapest thing. Like we just kind of look at him as a family man after Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of cool to see that interaction with his children and his wife, like, before they disappeared, which, like, made it that much more gut-wrenching, like, when it happened. So I thought it was a great way to start the movie.
Absolutely. And another thing I liked about it is, like, you know, we kind of talked about in the last one about the Hulk kind of being benched. And that one-liner I hated so much, like, you know, they're on house arrest or whatever with their family, this and that. It's like, okay, well, that's why they didn't write him into this movie. But you kind of see that there was a plan, you know, and it came full circle. So I was really happy to see that. Let's so we're talking about these guys we didn't see in Infinity War. Let's talk about Ant-Man a little bit, who was actually a key player in this one. You know, I love the scene, obviously, where he came back. There's a lot of theories. You know, this was the one scenario that Doctor Strange had seen where the rat, who was the real hero in the movie.
No, he's the MVP of the movie, hands down, yeah.
Happened to walk over the you know, the machine and the right buttons at the right sequence at the right time. But just him reuniting with his daughter Cassie, where she's older, again, right in the field.
Yeah, very powerful. Yeah.
What you guys think about Ant-Man in this one? We'll throw it back to Jeff. What you think about his role in this one?
I liked Ant-Man probably the most that I've ever liked him in anything in this movie.
True.
Because I didn't feel like he was going out of his way to be, like, kind of plucky sidekick.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that because I felt like it didn't kind of venture too far away from, like, the whole feeling of the movie. And that meeting with his daughter, like, when he first comes back, was, like, the saddest thing ever. I'm like, in a good way, but it really got me. I was, like, sitting there looking around. I was like, am I the only one about to cry right now?
No, you weren't.
No.
I'll tell you right now, you weren't.
Yeah, you were. As we're all of us are passing the tissue box down the aisle. Chris, what did you think about Ant-Man in this one?
I mean, that whole scene was fantastic. I mean, when he's going up to that wall, hoping that he doesn't see that his daughter's name is on there and then his name's on there.
Yeah, that scene too.
And realize they thought he disappeared and he's been in this dimension the whole time. You know, I mean, that was just an interesting twist to it, which was nice.
He was such a key player in this one, and I mean, there's so much to talk about. We'll keep it moving here, but he was such a key player. Like, if you notice in Civil War, he had, like Jeff said, a couple quippy lines, and that was about it. You know, I mean, he was a big part of the fight when he grew to gigantic size and all that. But yeah, such a key player, and honestly, kind of the one who came up with this plan.
Yeah, with the quantum realm, because once he came out. What was it? He was when he was trying to get into the front door and they let him in. How long did they say? Oh yeah, 5 years.
Right.
They said, wow, that must have been a long 5 years, and he was like, that's the thing. It wasn't 5 years. It was, I forgot what he said, like 5 hours or something like that. And you're right. He started the whole quantum realm, and then when they go to Tony Stark's house, and Tony Stark initially declines to start this, but in reality, it starts him to start brainstorming to go back in time.
Great, really, yeah, and that's actually a great point, Nunez, and a great segue. When they kind of approach this flash forward tactic 5 years later, very early on in the movie, I was like, man, I've been saying this in everything I've been writing lately. Like, at a lot of season finales or series finales of shows, they use that flash forward tactic all the time. I feel like it's very overused, but I gotta say, it worked. It
absolutely worked in this one.
Really, really good. So let's, you brought up Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we could go on and on about Tony. Loved seeing him as a family man in Infinity War. He had talked about having a dream about having a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I believe her name was Morgan. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm seeing nods, yes.
Yes.
But that was like such a cool moment. And when he initially, everyone's lost so much, he actually gained something. And he did lose a lot too.
Yes.
But he gained something very important, very special. And I love how he made it very clear when the whole Back to the Future plot came about, which we'll talk about in a little bit. He made it very clear, hey, we are not changing, anything.
We're coming back to the same thing.
We're coming back to here. He made it very clear, and I'm sitting here going, uh-oh, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know what happened. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So happy for him. What did you guys think about, obviously, I think Robert Downey Jr. gave the performance of a lifetime in this one. He's always fantastic. My personal favorite since day one in the MCU. What did you guys think about his performance? What did you guys think about some of the major, spoiler alert, plot points and his ultimate demise in this one? We'll start with Chris Francese.
Yeah, well, that whole point with him having a daughter, really changes the game with him.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like you guys said, I mean, he has something to truly lose, why, do something that may not work to sacrifice that, is a big point, but obviously, they slipped that little picture with him and Peter Parker in there.
That's what I was hoping.
And then that caught him up. You gotta bring some of those people back.
Another moment, and I was hoping you bring that up, Chris. I think you brought that up when we were eating at Fridays. I'd like to point this out. We all got cheeseburgers to honor Tony Stark, which I thought was,
that's a nice
which
touch.
was pretty cool. Everyone at the table got a cheeseburger. That was pretty cool.
Except Jeff.
Yeah, except for Jeff. Well, you got to get them chicken fingers. Fridays got good chicken fingers, too.
They do.
It's all about that honey mustard, right, Jeff?
That's what I'm saying. It's all about the honey mustard.
Yeah, that's right. But I digress. But another moment that got you right in the feels, like you're sitting there and go, like, no way. Like his mind is set. He's not going to do it. And then he sees the picture of him and Peter, and like it's totally believable. Like we know that he changed his mind. He has that talk with Pepper. Gwyneth Paltrow, actually a big part of this.
Huge part of this.
She was great. Of course, you get the Oscar-winning, Gwyneth Paltrow to kind of tell him, he's like, what if this works? Hypothetically, what if we do this? And she's kind of like, you're the kind of guy, you're not going to sit here and do nothing. You're gonna do it. She was like completely supportive. So that was like another cool thing about that. And also, we got to talk about, he kind of had that big breakdown at the beginning of the movie. When he kind of lost it and everything kind of hit him, kind of that almost embarrassing meltdown in front of everyone.
Yeah.
There's so much. Again, the performance by RDJ just crazy. Jeff, what did you think about Robert Downey Jr. in this one and his whole story arc?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I feel like when he had his child and when he came back in the beginning, like it kind of, there was a lot of elements of the older, more selfish Tony that was popping in there from the original first few movies, but it was for different reasons, which was I thought would be interesting. But the thing that I found was interesting in his story within this movie was when he ran into his dad, and I really loved that little.
That was such a cool interaction.
They're basically identical people, just different in a couple different ways. But I love that interaction. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, really great performances by both of them. We were talking about it earlier. They kept calling him the Beatnik because of the beard or whatever. That was hilarious. And another thing I loved about this movie, I wish I had said this earlier, all the connections, all the cameos we obviously saw, you see that the driver for Howard Stark is actually Jarvis from the Agent Carter TV series, the actor who played Jarvis in that. So, they don't usually have a lot of the MCU, or I should say the Marvel television universe, whatever you want to say. They usually
MTU.
Don't have the MTU, yeah. They don't have those characters pop in, obviously, besides Coulson. Well, he started out there. Was hoping to see Coulson in this one, by the way.
Yes, he was missing.
I'm always, he essentially did assemble the Avengers, but I digress. But I love that moment with Tony Stark and his dad, and I love that Jarvis popped in. He even had a line or two. So such a great interaction. I guess, obviously we know what happens with Tony. Again, spoiler alert. The dude who started it all, Iron Man, wields the Infinity Gauntlet with his own personal tech touch. I did order one of those, by the way.
Nice.
Very cool, yeah.
Nice.
I can't wait to show you guys. What did you guys think about the self-sacrifice by Tony Stark? And man, it's a tough scene to take in. What did you guys think about that? Nunez, we'll start with you.
Before we get to that, I was even going to bring up before when we were talking about how he saw the picture while he was washing the dishes. Right after that beginning scene with Hawkeye, and when he's on the ship with Nebula and he's saying all the messages into the Iron Man helmet, hoping somebody gets to it. The first thing he says to Captain America when Captain Marvel brings back the ship is, "I lost the kid."
Yes, yeah.
And even that part, very emotional. I found it fitting that the last words he says is, "I am Iron Man," and then he snaps his fingers when the stones go onto his hand, and he says, "I am Iron Man," and he snaps his fingers. I thought that was very appropriate, that those were his last words.
Wow, really, really well said. And I have a question for you guys to that point. Man, so much going on. When he kind of did like the switcheroo, I'll say, with Thanos and the stones coming to his glove or whatever, what exactly transpired there? Was it some sort of, you know what I'm talking about when he?
I gotta imagine it's the nanotech.
The tech, yeah. Oh, that's what you were saying. Yeah, it's just straight Tony Stark tech.
So
nanotech.
this was a theory because I was telling you that I have discussions with my barber about Marvel theories.
I gotta go to this bar.
Right after, right before all that happens, Thanos is fighting Captain Marvel, and he takes off the Power Stone to punch away Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Tony's seeing this as this is happening, and I think he realizes that he could take off the stones from the Infinity Gauntlet and put it onto his glove. So I'm thinking that that's where he got the idea.
Light bulb. I like that. Jeff, you want to weigh in on that little Infinity Stone swap, since you've been the expert on this subject, man, since you've been reading the comics back in the day?
Funny to think of it that way, although that totally makes sense. The way my brain was working during the movie was that he planned this all along as like contingency plan, like that he used created his own nanotechnology and made his own gauntlet, so that like if he ever did run into a situation where they were trying to get it off of Thanos' hand again, that he would be able to do like a little quick switcheroo using the nanotech. But yeah, I could totally see it going the other way also.
No,
I thought it was great. I loved it because it made total sense. It wasn't like, yeah, okay, this time it worked kind of thing. You know, it totally made sense this time around.
Yeah, this movie really covered its bases, and we have a couple like fan questions and some Twitter questions coming in. I definitely want to address with you guys as well. Real quick, so much to say on Tony Stark. We got to keep it moving though. I was surprised at how much comedy they got into this movie, and he got all his one-liners. Until you started talking, I thought you were a Build-A-Bear. You know?
Some of the interactions with his daughter too are hilarious. Where he's like, "Go to sleep, or else I'm going to sell all your toys."
Oh, you instantly fall in love with that family. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really great. And then when we have to say goodbye to Tony, he's messed up.
Hell of a scene, man.
Yeah, and he's like, everyone kind of is trying to say goodbye to him, and Spider-Man checks in, Peter Parker, and he's just trying to say goodbye to him, and then I think Gwyneth Paltrow checks in. His wife. They are married at this point. Well,
I believe so.
I assume as much. And I think he kind of says, "Hey, babe," he's kind of like, he can barely talk. He can't do anything.
I don't think he said anything, but she did say like, "We're gonna be okay," and it kind of has like a double meaning, like we're gonna be okay, but also too like I think she realizes at that point that he's going to pass away, so she kind of says like, "We're gonna be okay."
Yeah, and it gives them like.
And the Marvel as a whole is gonna be okay without him, even though it's gonna be a big gaping. It's definitely gonna be a miss. They're gonna be okay without him.
Really well said, man. Really fantastic. I think.
I think he whispered in her ear. I think he said, "Don't worry, we're really rich."
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but well said, Nunez. Though, but yeah, I got you, man. And we'll bring it back to Tony. I'm sure a bunch of other times, guys. Let's keep it moving. Now, obviously, I don't want to be that guy. I say that all the time, so I totally am that guy.
But you don't want to be.
Yeah, but I don't want to be. But I had said that I thought Tony Stark was going out in this movie. I thought he was actually going to go out in Infinity War, so when he didn't, a lot of prevailing theories that Cap was going to go out. So I knew he was going out. But one I did not expect to see go out, and another stellar performance in this one, her best performance, Black Widow. Did not expect her going out. What'd you think, Nunez?
One of my a lot of subtle things in this movie were some of my favorite scenes. The scene, I think it's directly after the support group.
Yeah.
With Captain America. I think she's having a briefing meeting with everybody when they're all holograms.
Yeah.
And you could see that she's trying to hold it together, even though everybody could tell like she's, kind of breaking up inside. And once everybody disappears and does their own thing, that's when she starts, getting emotional. And Captain America comes in and says, I'd cook for you, but you're already miserable as it is.
Yes. Nunez with the quotes today.
But you could tell that she's always been one of the more strong-headed characters, very well put together emotionally, and in this one you could tell it's a lot of heavy things happen. So eventually everybody has their breaking point.
I love what you said about her being like level-headed, and then you kind of see the range of emotion in this.
You could see it, yeah.
I said to Kate when we were driving to the movie theater, because I guess there's is there a Black Widow movie in production? Or?
Apparently there is.
Right. So I said, I like the character. I think Scarlett Johansson is great in everything she does, but this character has been so one-dimensional. I think I really want to see her emote. I want to see some emotion, like, before we get this one-off movie. She's a cool character. This infamously, like, kind of spy trading sides, and like the video games and the comics. She's a good guy. She's a bad guy. She's betraying the Avengers. Mm-hmm. This kind of goes the other way, where she has betrayed kind of the bad guys to become an Avenger. But we saw so much emotion. We saw tears. We saw heartbreak. And that scene with her and Hawkeye when they're flying off the cliff and they keep saving each other. And
they keep saving each other.
When they're falling, they're saving each other.
Yeah. That
was one of my favorite scenes. And then, of course, you got Red Skull popping in, who was not the dude from The Matrix. It wasn't the original Red Skull. No. It wasn't. Okay, good. Whoever it is, it sounds just like him. They did a great job with that. And he does like the exact same lines from Infinity War. They keep it real. I like that. But man, what a scene! I did not expect that. That's
probably surprise of the movie for me. I knew some. I kind of had a feeling with Captain America and Iron Man. I had no idea that Scarlet.
I know. I do that all the time. Black Widow was.
I didn't. I had no clue.
Again, they don't really call her Black Widow either.
No. They call her Natasha.
Nat,
Nat.
My one big thing about that is they totally glossed over anything for her. They had the big send off for Tony Stark at the end. Like, she died too, and then there was almost no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, no memorial,
no memorial for her.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
that's fair. That's a fair point, because they gave her like a nod. I think it was Hawkeye or Clint at the lake with
Scarlet Witch,
not Scarlett Johansson, Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch. Yeah.
So they kind of had like a little, like nod to her or something.
I think the whole battle was in tribute to her, because I think they said like we're gonna get Thanos for her.
Right. I gotcha. But she didn't get like the. I mean, I'm assuming the funeral at the end, which we'll talk about, was obviously just for Tony. It could have been, but it seemed that way. Jeff, what did you think about Scarlett Johansson's performance in this one?
I mean, I felt like she was right on par where she's always been in all the other movies. Like you said, like we kind of wish that she had a little bit more screen time to build her, past.
Yeah.
In previous movies, so that when the new movie comes out, like her solo movie, it's more feeling behind it. But I thought everything she was in was good. Like I thought the whole event where they were jumping off the cliff was fantastic, because it reminded me of all the other fight scenes that they had in the past, where it was always like, I get a hit, you get a hit, I get a hit, you get a hit, and it just like kept going back and forth. And I thought it just like kind of played along the same style as like everything else that they've run into with each other. But I thought it was good. I thought she was good. Kind of sad to see her go, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, very sad.
And they have like one of my favorite relationships, just like best friends, family. They didn't make them kiss or anything like that. They didn't do like the romance thing. Obviously, he's married and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad that they didn't do anything, kind of like that. But they did it. I believe they held hands or something. Like that.
Even before they get to the Soul Stone scene, the scene with the samurai fight in Japan, she essentially saves him there too, because she talks some sense into his head, like, all this killing isn't going to bring back your family. And he's like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah, man. Really well said. And Nunez is knocking it out of the park as usual, man, because it sets me up for another segue. You see the direction that Clint goes, and it checks out. He's not a peaceful man by any means, and he very vengeful, I guess is the best way to put it.
Very vengeful,
he kind of goes out as this vigilante mercenary, whatever you want to see. It's crazy, man. But let's talk. Now, I've gotten a lot of questions on this one. I've gotten a lot of comments on this one. Mixed opinions on this. I'm going to throw this one to Jeff first, because as far as Chris Hemsworth version of Thor goes, it has been anything but consistent. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. We've had serious Thor, we've had slightly funny Thor, and then we have what we like to call Saturday Night Live Thor, which we've actually seen on Saturday Night Live and on some YouTube videos. I believe that's where it all started, where Chris Hemsworth has the roommate. It's actually very funny. and Chris Hemsworth owns all of those roles. But obviously, we have the Big Lebowski Thor in this one.
Oh boy!
In fact,
Best line in the movie.
I said to Kate, I'm like, he looks like the dude, and then Downey Jr. 2 seconds later.
Move out of the way, Lebowski.
Yeah, Nunez with the quotes. It's awesome. Jeff, keep it real with us, man. I know you have varying opinions. I know you were not a fan of Ragnarok. What did you think about Thor in this movie? At first, at the end, throughout, what do you think about the Big Lebowski Thor and his role in this one?
I felt like initially it was funny, and I was just like, okay, I'm with it. This is kind of funny, and I'm enjoying it. But by the end of the movie, when, or halfway through when he gets Mjolnir, and like when he's fighting Thanos, you don't want him to be a fat ass anymore. You want him to be like the Thor that he was at the end of Infinity War, which was, I think, the best version of Thor.
Yes,
I agree. He was my favorite Thor. Yeah, definitely. But go ahead.
Yeah, he was so badass, and he was kicking the crap out of everybody, and now he's just like this fat loser that he's still strong, obviously, he's a god, but I don't know. I wasn't digging it. It kind of looked goofy having Chris Hemsworth in a fat suit fighting Thanos at the end. So like I said to you afterwards when we got out of the movie, once he got Mjolnir, like I kind of felt like some magic properties of the hammer like slimped him down again, and then the rest of the movie he was like the Thor that we got used to by the end of Infinity War. And that would have been great. That would have been like, all right, you got your joke in, now let's move on.
Right.
But I didn't like the way they did it towards the end.
Yeah, I gotcha. And like I was saying, and really well said, Jeff, a lot of varying opinions on this one. I was so surprised about how much comedy they got into this movie. I'm like, all right, we got some of the jokes in with Infinity War. Rocket is always fantastic. I could talk about Rocket Raccoon all day. He's got great chemistry with everybody, but really fantastic. Let's throw over to Chris Francis. What did you think about this version of Thor? What did you think about Thor in this one, man?
Well, look, like everybody else at first, it was kind of funny to see him like this retired superhero, just like
playing video,
hanging out with his buddies. Like, I got nothing else to do now. It's all over. But I mean, the more I thought about it, I mean, if you figure from Thor Ragnarok, he loses his father. His sister destroys his hammer. He has to destroy his house. He has to, let his whole homeworld be destroyed. Thanos comes in, literally massacres half his people, not even with a snap. Like, he has to watch all his people get massacred. His brother die. Heimdall gets killed.
Half of Asgard.
Yeah, then he gets shot down. He gets the hammer, almost dies to make the Stormbreaker. And when he gets that shot, he misses it. And he just can't, get over that. He's just a shell of a man after. He just feels guilty for that, so he just...
It's like all on his shoulders. Like
he's just a
had
mess.
The kill shot.
It's an emotional mess now. Like
So you're saying it's understandable, and I think Nunez might be going in a similar direction with this. What you think about Thor?
Well, like I was saying to you before, initially I absolutely hated it, only because, like Jeff was saying, that scene in the battle in Infinity War when he comes out with the Stormbreaker, that's the most epic scene in that movie. So to reduce him to this just like, fat shell of himself, I was like, why are you reducing him? Like, he was one of the most epic parts in Infinity War. And the more and more I watched it, the comedy was very good. But like the point you guys brought up, when he had a clear shot at Thanos and he completely missed, for a god being as himself, he couldn't take that. And like you said, all the pain that he went through as far in Ragnarok, where with his sister, and then Infinity War with his brother and half his people and his home, pretty much they had to make a new Asgard, as you see in this movie. He went through a lot, so he couldn't take it, and he kind of just gave up.
Yeah.
And it took Rocket and Hulk to bring him back. Otherwise, he would have probably just wasted away on that new Asgard. So eventually, I warmed up to the idea of Fat Thor. I thought initially there was going to be a scene where he would hold up the hammer, they would see a bolt of lightning, and all the fat would go away.
People were saying
and then
that.
he would become like the Thor that he was before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, really well said. And I'm just thinking about it. Like, I had sent the clip to you guys in our group chat. like Jeff was saying, he was like perfect in Infinity War.
Yes.
He was broken down, but he was still fighting, and he was tough. And again, I think Rocket gels with anybody, whether it's Yondu or Groot or Thor in this case. And I love that scene in Infinity War. It's my favorite, where they're talking on the ship, and Rocket says it's time to be the captain, and he pretty much just kind of checks on Thor, and he's like, "Oh, so dead brother, that must be annoying," and he's just kind of trying to talk to him. And Hemsworth is talking about, lost his father, lost his mom, and he's pretty much says, if I fail, I have nothing left to lose, which obviously, we see that that's not true.
Yeah.
But tears are like if you look at Chris Hemsworth, I mean, phenomenal performance. Tears are rolling down his eye, and he kind of wipes it away and tries to be tough or whatever. I love that scene, and that's the perfect Thor. So I agree with you guys. Like, it's totally believable that he essentially lets himself go.
Yeah, he just gave up.
But I think like Jeff was saying, like the fat suit Lebowski thing may have been too much. Like, it was funny, and it's a running joke, and it's gonna, we're waiting for the action figure.
I feel like they're smart enough writers to write humor in there that you didn't need to do that.
Yeah. And again, like I understand, like the audience, is comprised of a lot of kids and big kids like ourselves.
Yeah.
So I get it, but I not to say I had an issue with it, but definitely mixed feelings. But I will say this: no matter what it is, Chris Hemsworth absolutely owns it. Like, if he's going to be comedic, Chris Hemsworth, he kills it.
Yeah.
I mean, even that scene where he's like trying to talk about where the red stone is. What was that? The reality stone.
Yes.
And then he just goes into the diatribe about his ex-girlfriend and gets all emotional.
And they're just like, cut him off, man.
Yeah. She's an old flame. They burn out as they do. Go ahead, Jeff. Were you trying to check in about Thor?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I've always felt like ever since the second Thor movie, they just haven't really known what they want to do with him. And I kind of thought that this was a good example of that. But I understand what everyone's saying, like how he went through a lot of stuff. And I was thinking during the movie, I was like, at the one point where I thought they were going to change it around is when he ran into his mom. And she said, like, everyone failed at who they are supposed to be. The measure of a person, a hero, is how they succeed at who they are.
Wow.
I thought that was going to be the moment where it switched around for him. And he was going to become Thor from the end of Infinity War. But I don't know, like we've said, like, across the map of, like, everything Thor, he's, like, changed so much. Yeah. And I feel that way about Hulk, too. I always feel like that they don't know, like, what they want to do with Hulk. So, I don't know. I think, all in all, it's great stuff at the end of the day, but it's like, if you're a comic book nerd, just certain things are like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and really, really well said. I mean, we can bounce all over the place. I love that Thor did get to meet his mom. I love that Stark got to meet his dad.
That was a cool scene.
When they, let's talk about this a little bit before we keep going with characters. When they got into this like whole Back to the Future main plot here, I'm sitting here thinking, going, all right, this could be fun, but I don't know if this is what I expected the movie to be, and I don't know if I'm on board for this.
On paper, it didn't sound good.
Exactly.
On paper, it did not sound good.
And I'm sitting here going, when they start going to these other times, we're going to have a lot of these running into ourselves and yada yada, which only really happened with Cap for the most part.
Yeah, but it worked very well.
I could do this all day.
I know.
That was one of my favorite parts, really. But it worked out great. It was fantastic, and I got nervous because when I started seeing these other things from the other movies, I'm thinking we have a clip show of a movie right now. We're going to have a clip show, and I don't like it. But it actually worked out perfectly, and we got a ton of cameos. So when they got to the point where they're like, there's 3 stones on Earth, this team's going to Earth, this team, Clint and Black Widow, you're going to get the reality stone. Obviously, we know how that turned out. I was digging it. Like, I dug it, yeah. I'm like, I like this. Okay, it's not where I'm going. But what did you guys think about this whole time travel, Back to the Future plot? What'd you think, Chris? Go ahead.
It certainly wasn't what I was expecting going into the movie.
No, I didn't either.
The movie starting off with Thanos destroying the stone, and then they go in there and kill him right away, and then go, well, what do we do now? And I was like, what are they going to do now?
What do we do now?
Which was kind of fun. And Thor's like, I went for the head or whatever, and he just, boom, easy peasy. Jeff, what did you think about this kind of, I keep saying Back to the Future thing. What did you think about this main plot?
I actually kind of liked it, and I kind of knew they were going to go that direction. We haven't really touched the quantum realm at all up to this point. It was just kind of in the Ant-Man movies, and that was it. So I always felt like it was in their back pocket. But the whole time travel montage was fantastic because it just kind of, I felt like that was like the right place for comedy. Like Captain America fight, I thought was really funny, and I was like expecting like Earth Angel to like pop in there somewhere, like some dude just like
That would have been awesome.
That would have been
or Johnny
great.
Be Good or something. Yeah, that would have been.
yeah.
Your cousin Marvin Barry.
Your cousin Martin. Yes. All right, but yeah, no, I got you, man. But it worked. You know, I think it worked out. I mean, I think it's fair to say we all loved the movie.
I think
Definitely.
one of my favorite scenes in the entire part of that was when the music starts playing and Star-Lord comes in dancing.
We're talking about
And,
that
and
before.
then it goes to like them watching him, and there's no music. It's just him singing off key, and they're like, "What is he, an idiot?" And like,
And to that point, it was perfect because I'm sitting here going, "We're going to relive all these moments from the other movies," and it was great.
They were showing parts that we didn't see.
Different perspectives. I think
Yeah,
you said.
different perspectives,
Yes.
different points of view. Yeah.
Exactly. Really, really cool. Man, lots of things we can talk about here. I want to talk about Hulk and I almost said Miss Marvel. I'll be in big trouble for that. Hulk and Captain Marvel I want to talk about a little bit. Jeff was talking a little bit about like they don't know what to do with Thor, and in the past podcast for Infinity War, we talked about them benching Hulk. I think we thought the issue was, and obviously we see Captain Marvel being benched in this movie as well. I think that we thought the issue with Hulk was that he was afraid of Thanos, and that's why he wouldn't come out. Obviously, again, in kind of a one-liner, but I understand you got to keep things moving, so I'm okay with it. He had explained that he had found a way to combine the Hulk and himself. I was cool with it. What did you? And he was funny. The selfie with the kids, stay in school, listen to your
Dab.
mom. That was great.
Say green.
Yeah, exactly. I was surprised at how much comedy they were. Again, I keep saying to fit into this, but it was really great. You know, 5 years went by. We'll start with Chris Francis. What did you think about this incarnation of the Hulk?
I liked it actually because I mean they do that in the comic books where at some point
Yes.
he does kind of work his thing out with the Hulk and becomes just Banner, the Hulk. He's just he can
Banner,
think
yeah.
and he can exist, but he's always just the Hulk. So I mean I liked it. I don't know.
Cool. It was good, man. I thought the CGI was pretty cool too. I thought it looked great.
Very good, yeah.
Very cool. Jeff, what did you think? I know you had a big issue with them benching one of the most powerful characters in the MCU, Hulk. What did you think about this?
It was my favorite incarnation of the Hulk in the movies, but yet again, I don't understand why they're benching Hulk, because in Avengers, they didn't bench him, and he kicked ass. He was like some of the best fighting scenes in the movie. They take him out of Civil War. They basically give him erectile dysfunction in Infinity War.
Yeah, we talked about that before, exactly.
They don't have him in the fight at all either. And I'm just like, what is going on? Why are you taking out like one of the best Avengers out of these movies and not using them? It just doesn't make sense to me because the villains were way more powerful in this movie than they were in Civil War and they were in Infinity War. And it was his time to like shine and like get in a fight and go toe to toe with Thanos and kind of make up for what happened, and they just didn't do it. And my mind was blown that they didn't go that direction. I would have loved to have seen it.
I got you.
And I also don't know what the word is for a Hulk not being able to become Hulk, so that's why I said edict.
We actually said that before too.
You're waiting for Robert Downey Jr. to pop in and make some comment or something like that. Exactly, as he always does. But speaking about heroes being benched, Captain Marvel. For those of us that have seen the movie, really fantastic movie. But I mean, long story short, she is the most powerful. So I understand why they benched her, and at the same time, they make it very clear in her movie and in this movie that she is handling business everywhere. I think in the other movie, she had said, Earth isn't the only planet with problem. It was something along the lines of that. So with her checking
Which
in
is a good point.
In fact, Nunez, I'll let you take this one because Jeff, you'll be happy to hear this. But tell us what you were thinking when Captain Marvel checked in at the end through the ship.
Oh, so the last scene with that where you see the ship going down, split second, I thought it was the Silver Surfer, and I thought they were going to introduce the Fantastic Four. But then I realized Captain Marvel hasn't been around in a while, so I was like, oh, it's Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel checking in.
Yeah.
Did you think it was now Jeff? Silver Surfer is one of your favorites. Did you think it was him?
No, I figured it was Captain Marvel, but it was Silver Surfer. I was just like, lost my mind.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that would have been amazing, though. Because I feel like this was the movie to break out all the big guns, and let people go at it.
Absolutely.
So that would have been amazing.
What did you think about Captain Marvel in this one?
Well, so I'm guilty of not seeing the Captain Marvel.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, what did you think of her, I guess, based on this? I guess she wasn't really in it a lot, but you know what I mean.
Well, I'm glad that they gave her the short hair, first of all, because I think she looks badass like that.
Nice.
But,
yeah, same
I really
here.
wish she was in it more, to be honest with you, because I know it's like she's super powerful, and it's sort of the same thing that they suffered from with Hulk. It's like, dude, this is like 15 years of movies. Break out the big guns, come up with some sort of a way to, have them going toe-to-toe nonstop in that final fight. So,
Yeah,
I don't know. I would have loved to have seen more of her. I thought she was good.
Absolutely. Chris, any thoughts on Captain Marvel?
No, I mean she's badass. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's she's so powerful. Like, they got to use her sparingly in a big way. Otherwise, she's just gonna overpower everything. She's gonna and she does make that point. Hey, Earth has you guys here. There's all these planets out there that don't have anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, you said it way better than I did. Yeah, exactly. And then she makes that grand entrance. It's really cool. There was a couple, questions coming at us, a couple thoughts talking about why didn't she put on the Infinity? I mean, we could do this all day long, but her being the most powerful, I don't want to get into that, but there's lots of theories and questions and contradictions, but for the most part, I thought it was a masterpiece. Really, really great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the villain. No, I really want to talk about Cap because that's a big one. Let's talk about the villain a little bit. Thanos. This one's interesting to me because, I always say villains are tricky in movies. They're usually one-offs. You get a quick origin story on the villain. This is why they're doing it. This is why they have this relationship to the hero, and then they go out at the end. And then you really have no connection to the villains. Like guys like Loki are the exception.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I have students that say to me, both children and adults, saying they like Thanos. Like people dig Thanos. In fact, some people would say to me they kind of get it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm one of those people.
Exactly.
To a certain extent, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you get why because humanity is unpure, but the way to go about it to kill half of life, like that's an insane way to think about it.
Right.
You have all the Infinity Stones. You could essentially do whatever you want. Why do it that way? It's because he's crazy.
Yeah. Totally. Jeff, Thanos, one of your favorites, man. You're the one who gave me the Infinity Gauntlet comic to read, man. You introduced me to Thanos. What did you think of? Obviously, you loved him in Infinity War. What you think about him and his role in this one?
I liked him in this movie a lot. I especially liked the scene at the farm because that was one of my favorite in the actual comic books, where he's accomplished his goal and he's just like, I'm done, I'm retired now. I did what I had to do.
Oh, the Scarecrow. I'm with you. Yeah, the Scarecrow and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, with the Scarecrow and all that. The one thing that I thought was scary was at the one point where he realizes that they did travel in time, and he says like, it's not verbatim, but he basically says, like, now I know you will never stop, and I'll just need to destroy all of you. And I was like, well, that's the Thanos I know from the comics. Like, not half the universe, everything. So that was, like, kind of scary. I was like, oh, man, if this pans out, like, this could become, like, a crazy movie towards the end, which it did. But I thought he was right in the line where he was in Infinity War, and I couldn't have asked for more from the Thanos perspective. I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, really well said. And another little thing I was thinking about when you and Nunez were just talking about, people were saying, oh, he could have done this and that with the Infinity Gauntlet. I think this was kind of like a little nod, and I love the little things that this movie covered. I feel like it covered...
There's so many Easter eggs.
That and like fan theories. Like people would comment on things from Infinity War, and if you guys watch those, we love to watch those How It Should Have Ended videos, which are fantastic. They're really funny. But they did the whole thing, well, why don't you go back and kill baby Thanos and end the story?
Oh, like War Machine said,
and they had explained how that wouldn't happen, but that was the theory in the How It Should Have Ended, which was actually very dark and very weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think they pay attention to the internet and the fan theories and the trolls and whatnot. So I thought that was interesting. Chris, what did you think of Thanos in this one? As good as ever?
Yeah, and I mean, like Jeff said, I mean, this is where some of the true crazy does come out, where he says, you know what, I'll just wipe this universe out and remake it how I want to make it, which completely goes against what his original motive was.
Yeah, totally, man. It's a different story this time around, but man, I mean, he's like a fan favorite villain is the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
Really, really good, and a suitable villain for a story of this epicness, I guess I should
Exactly.
say. We're really crazy. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say I like the part too where, how Nebula's on like the network. So when the future Nebula goes in the back, she connects to whatever network that she's on.
Yeah.
And then they start like that's how they figure it out. I was like, wait, how? No, she's from the future. But then it's like, oh no, she's on the, she's on the,
Yeah, it's all linked up, man.
Yeah, she's linked up. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
It's crazy. And Nunez and I were talking, and let's talk about Nebula a little bit real quick, and Gamora as well. Nebula, key player in this one as well.
Very key player.
Nunez
kind of in love with her.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit.
But Nunez and I were talking about this earlier. The line where... So I love that we have past Gamora. I love that we have Gamora back in some capacity. All the theories leading up to this movie is they were going to go get her out of the Soul Stone or something along those lines. But instead, we have the time travel aspect. So we have past Gamora. Actually works out fantastic. She makes the same choice as, I'll say, present Gamora. And decides to help Nebula. This is confusing. Present Nebula and past Gamora encounter past Nebula, and that whole standoff was kind of interesting, and we were trying to think of the line, and what was it, Nunez? They said, like, you don't have to help Thanos, and what was it she said?
You don't have to do this,
That's
and she says, I am this, meaning because she wants to prove herself to her father, to Thanos, when in reality he's just using her.
Yeah.
So
totally, it was like, and then she ended up killing herself.
Nebula killed Nebula.
Yeah. Really, really crazy, but such a key player. Also, at the beginning with the flag football.
Oh, love that.
So early in the movie,
she very much enjoyed it.
It was great. You've won. Congratulations. Got Robert Downey Jr. as good as ever. Krus, what did you think of Nebula in this one?
I thought she was fantastic. Seeing like the two sides of it, where she was completely devoted to Thanos, and then now after the fact, after he's like totally tortured her, and like she's kind of seen the light, and trying to, get Gamora onto her side, which we all know, like, she was already leaning that way anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, any thoughts on, almost like Gamora, on Nebula? I'm very confused at this point. My brain is bouncing around different timelines. Any thoughts on Nebula?
Actually, I was a little surprised they didn't go the direction of the comic on this one, because I thought once Thanos found the recordings of her, other life coming through her, that he was going to start torturing her like he did in the comic, and I thought she was going to end up with the Infinity Gauntlet for like a very short period. But obviously that didn't happen. But I don't know. I thought the whole dynamic between her and Thanos was like always on the cusp of exploding, and they just kept you there the whole movie. And I thought that was great.
Yeah, I gotcha. I think, and I'm on the same page as you. I had said in the last movie, not this one, I said she was going to be a key player in taking out Thanos. But that would have been cool with her with the gauntlet. That would have been really epic.
Yeah, I was really hoping that would happen at some point, like just as a nod. Even if she didn't have it fully, just got it, and then you're like, ah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, guys, we've been kind of dancing around this one a little bit, but another, in my mind, fitting ending for one of our favorite heroes. Fair to say, one of the leaders of the Avengers finally got the line out, Avengers Assemble. Of course, I'm talking about Steve Rogers, who got his happy ending. There was mixed opinions on this, surprisingly. We'll talk about that a little bit. I was a huge fan of the way his story arc went throughout the MCU and throughout this movie. I absolutely love the ending with Peggy Carter. I was a big fan of her in the MCU, huge fan of Agent Carter on ABC, particularly the season 1, which was great. So I love that they had Jarvis, and I love that like his story always came back to her. If you think about it, was it Winter Soldier? She was the old lady. Civil War, she had passed. In this movie, he saw her when he was undercover, and then Kate had mentioned to me, he's like, oh, I hope he goes back to see Peggy and this and that. And so Kate got her a happy ending. I thought that was great. They're also, we had our pop vinyl of Captain America. I think they're on the table now. Captain America next to Peggy Carter for years and years and years sitting in the apartment.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, it was really cool. And I love, again, the inclusion of the TV series and Jarvis from that. So I was really happy, and there's so many things to say. Him getting his shield back, him saying Avengers Assemble. Let's talk about Cap real quick, but don't get into him giving away his shield just yet.
Okay.
Because we had a couple questions about that, so I want to address that next. But what did you guys think about Chris Evans and his role and happy ending in this one? Nunez.
Like I was saying to you before, he has 3 of the most epic scenes in this movie, and you could argue any superhero movie. The Hail Hydra in the elevator, oh my goodness, that was
brilliant.
Oh, that was so good. And then with Thor's hammer, when he first receives it,
huge,
and Thor says, "I knew it all along." Oh my goodness! And then he essentially tiger uppercuts Thanos with the hammer, and then brings down lightning with it. It's like, oh my goodness, it's so epic.
Really well said.
And then when he says Avengers Assemble, you can't top those scenes. Like, they're just so good.
Absolutely. Really well said. Happy with the ending for him?
Yes. Very, very, very happy.
Yeah, no issue for me. I was thrilled being a fan of both of them. Chris Francese, what you think about Cap?
I love Captain America. Especially in these movies. Like, he's just, he's the all-American guy. Like, he's, got a good heart. He just wants to do the right thing. And, just the scenes where he's fighting himself, just being exasperated with his younger self. Like, I know.
I was like, and that could have been terribly cheesy, and it was great.
It was great, yeah.
Not to mention, all the flashbacks. Like I keep saying, I loved all the little cameos. Howard Stark, Jarvis, got a little bit of Loki in there. That was nice.
Yeah.
Something I was a little confused on, was Natalie Portman actually in the movie? Because she pretty much walked into a room and walked out of a room.
I believe she was, just for that once.
Because I know she was at the premiere, and there was like a fall
I believe
down.
she was.
Now, I guess Natalie Portman was in it. But again, cool to see all these characters, because she had essentially been written out of the MCU, so it was really cool. But anyway, back to Cap. Jeff, what you think about your boy, Captain America?
I would say that Cap was probably my favorite in the movie.
Me too.
The storyline, the ending, everything, I thought was perfect. The fight scene with the hammer. I always thought in Age of Ultron that he was actually able to pick up the hammer, but he didn't want to do it.
I agree.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah,
really?
I completely agree. Yeah.
Wow, you guys are good.
Like, it starts moving, and he just stops, and he acts like he can't get it, because he couldn't do that to Thor. Thor would have lost so much confidence if that happened.
Yeah, that's the last thing Thor needs after we saw what happened.
Exactly.
It's the last thing Thor needs, yep. Really.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the whole thing with Peggy, and I was, I don't know who to give this credit to, but I was reading somewhere that Peggy's picture being inside of Cap's broken compass is just sort of like a metaphor that she's always been a huge part of his moral compass.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
All the movies, and I thought that was just a great way to put it, and just a fantastic way to end the movie.
Brilliant, very, very well said. On the subject of him picking up the hammer, which was, I was so happy when Thor got his hammer back. First of all,
yeah,
hammer time. It was awesome. I'm so sorry for that. But basically, I love it when moments land in movies. Like when you see something coming and then it happens, you're like, yeah, awesome, I called it, and you're excited. But when something hits you at the right moment, when I saw, because the way it was shot, you see the hammer getting picked up off the ground.
And you don't know who's getting it.
Well, my brain went Captain America, and then it shows Captain America. So when it lands like that, I was stupid. It didn't occur to me that he was going to pick up the hammer in the movie. It just didn't. It didn't.
No, I had no idea. That's what made it even more epic for me.
When that angle, I'm like, why are they shooting at this angle? My brain is like, why are they not showing a hand on this? And my brain got there. Sure enough, it's Captain America. And when a moment lands like that, that's good writing. And again, another callback to, as Jeff was saying, Ultron, man. And
especially with Thor being as defeated as he is, for him to celebrate that and say, I knew it all along, that made it hit even more. Because it's like, oh, that makes it even more epic because Thor's behind that.
Besties, man.
Yeah.
Avengers.
I also love how Thor makes a joke about how his is still bigger.
Yeah. You could have the little one.
It's great, yeah. In the last movie, I see you grew a beard like mine. That was great. And then, of course, we go back at the end of the movie to the Star-Lord Thor kind of,
frenemies, I guess. Alpha.
frenemies,
Yeah, Alpha. That's a
complex.
better. Yeah.
That's great. And a lot of people are saying that speculating, I should say, that we're going to see Thor in Guardians 3.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I think he's an unofficial part of the team now.
He's going to fit right in.
Yeah.
Guardians 3, the search for Gamora.
Yeah.
He's going to fit right in, and I'm saying it now that Gamora's going to fall in love with Thor because it's a different Gamora.
Yes.
Wow. Calling it now.
That makes absolute sense.
You heard it here first on the Bob Culture Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Now, real quick, talking about some of our fan feedback leading up to this podcast, I asked if anyone had any questions or opinions, and I got a couple texts, a couple Twitter messages, a couple Facebook messages, all about the same thing, and even just talking to people about the movie. So I want to hear your guys' answers first. There was a lot of issue taking with Cap giving the shield to Falcon over Bucky. A lot of people seem to have an issue with that. So I'll tell you my thoughts. I'm going to round this thing out. So let's start with Kriss Franцese. What did you think about the choice to give the shield and the Captain America name, presumably, to Sam instead of Bucky?
Well, I mean, again, it's a comic. They're following a comic theme. You know, he's the one that gets it in the comic books. Bucky is the White Wolf for the Black Panther and Wakanda. He's got a thing that he is for them.
Didn't even think of it that way.
So he's like their secret, I don't know, whatever, you know,
secret weapon. I guess
secret weapon.
That's a great point. So I think in the comics, actually, each of them did get it. There's so many different incarnations of the comics thing. They did get it, but I like what you're saying, Chris, about like the White Wolf thing. I completely didn't even think about it. So he kind of has a story arc. I like that. That's brilliant. Nunez, what did you think about the decision?
I didn't mind it. I did hear a lot of not backlash, but Bucky should have gotten it. Within the context of the movie, I didn't mind it. In my head, being a big wrestling fan, I don't know if this goes that way in the comics, but because I did hear they're going to have a Winter Soldier Falcon TV series, I believe.
I forgot about that. You're right.
In my head, I think Bucky approves in the movie, but he might turn on him down the road.
Ooh,
frenemies. So that's what I'm thinking, because maybe in the movie he approves of him being Captain America, but then all along he actually wanted to have the shield and not Falcon. So that's where my mind went right away. I don't know if that's accurate, but
I would love that to be some sort of like cheesy sitcom, and like with a cheesy one has the shield and the other like some sort of cheesy theme song or something like that. Falcon better watch his back, something like silly like that. That'd be ridiculous. Oh man, I'm having too much fun here, but And like you were saying, Nunez, you did almost – it was kind of important and almost subtle, you seeing Bucky kind of being like, go.
It's all about the subtle moments in this movie. Like even Falcon's like this – because Captain America asked him, like, how does it feel to have that shield? And Falcon says it feels like somebody else's. And he looks over at Bucky, and Bucky gives him the the slight nod.
Another good call, Nunez. You were on your game as always.
I saw it 3 times, so
there it is. Yeah,
so I should know it by now.
I know. I want to see it again. I can't wait. I almost went this morning on my day off, man. I wanted to. Jeff, what did you? I'm really interested to hear what you think about Cap giving his shield to Sam.
I mean, I think they're both good choices. I just think, from a writing perspective, I think it would have been cooler for it to be Bucky and to have them on the bench together, and him to stay at the end of the line, and like hands him the shield. And also Winter Soldier has like super strength and should be able to wield a vibranium shield better than the Falcon can. But it's whatever. They're both good choices.
Jeff, looking at it from a physics standpoint, I love it.
He's not wrong.
Not wrong. Love it, man. So which way do you guys think I'm going to go? Am I going Sam or am I going Bucky?
You're going Sam.
Yeah, I think you're going Sam.
Sam? Yeah, you guys know me too well, yeah. I'm definitely going Sam for several reasons, all right? First of all, everyone loves Winter Soldier because he's cool. He's just a cool character, good guy, bad guy. People are
obsessed. It's that hair too, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But honestly, Sam is one of my personal favorites, so you guys know that. Like in all of the movies, I love his relationship with Cap. Not to take away anything from Bucky and Cap's.
Look to the left.
Yeah, exactly. On your left, that's what it is. Yeah, which they used. In my mind, just from an acting perspective and writing perspective for that scene, if I'm making that movie, I'm giving that shield to Cap because in my mind, Winter Soldier is a very one-dimensional character. We need someone who can emote a little bit. And I'm not saying Anthony Mackie can act circles around, what is it, Sebastian Shaw?
Sebastian Stan, yeah.
Stan, yeah. What is that from, Star Wars?
That was Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, thank you. Good. That's why I have you guys here. But I think Anthony Mackie can make that scene work more than Sebastian Stan can make that. Because he's a man of few words. He'd be like, okay, like take the shield. But, you see some tears in the eyes, and he's very like, he kind of walks up to Cap and he knows that everything's okay. And he kind of has a smile and he's kind of figuring it out. And when you see them walk up to the bench, you kind of see like that circular, I'm sitting here seeing like, oh, is that like a rock or something? You see kind of like that circular thing on the side.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was at first either.
And I'm like, oh, is that like symbolic of the shield or something? Little did I know that was the actual shield at the time. But I love the choice. Sam's the guy. They have a special relationship, and I just think that scene works better in the context of the film and the actors. No disrespect to anyone. I just think that's the right call, and I probably why they did it. So,
because I met both of those guys, and Sebastian Stan was like the nicest guy, the actor I've ever met.
Yeah,
like, he went out of his way to like talk to me and was like asking me questions about the movies, and I was like, this guy's awesome.
Yeah. This coming from the guy who talks workout tips with Linda Hamilton at a Comic-Con. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. They love you. Not as much as the wrestlers love Kriss Nunez.
Oh, stop.
So go ahead, Chris. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that old Steve Rogers kind of looks like Clint Eastwood.
I see it. Totally.
And I thought initially it was Clint Eastwood making a cameo.
Yeah.
But because they have every actor ever that's ever acted in the MCU, so I thought, oh, Clint Eastwood hasn't been in a movie, why not put him in there? But no, it was Chris Evans in prosthetics, I guess, or CGI.
I heard when Peggy Carter is in her office, she says like Braddock didn't check in yet, which is the name of Captain Britain. So
wow,
if they're going to bring Britain into everything, then if having like Sebastian Stan and Captain Britain, and if he dresses up as like Cap, it would be too similar. I think having like Falcon with the shield and having Captain Britain would be like a good mix,
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. Good cast, Jeff. So we, so much to talk about. Let's talk about kind of that big, breathtaking scene where all the characters start to come back after Hulk kind of takes one for the team. With his gamma radiation, he's able to use the Infinity Iron Gauntlet. Was that what we're calling it? Something like that?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And all the heroes start coming back, and it's awesome. And we see Spider-Man, and we see the Guardians coming together.
Black
we
Panther.
See Asgardians, Black Panther. Oh, the Black Panther guys coming in. It's everything. I thought for a split second, wishful thinking, I should say. I'm like, all right, we had that merger. Can we have like kind of Hugh Jackman maybe in the background? Maybe have Deadpool pop in,
maybe.
Deadpool kind of do like a little wink at the camera, go back, come out with a chimichanga, something.
Yeah.
It's too much to ask. I get it. And it may have taken away from the scene, quite frankly. So just a breathtaking, emotional scene. Anytime you see any of these characters interact, it's pretty fun and special. But like when they all interact and they all come out, what was that like for you guys? And let's talk about some of these other characters coming in.
I got to be honest, I kind of forgot for a second because, as soon as he snaps them, everybody, it worked. And then all of a sudden, Thanos' ship comes in. They're getting attacked by like all of those creatures.
Yeah.
And everything was happening so fast, and they started fighting Thanos. And then like I kind of forgot a second that everybody's back until like they were
it's the same exact thing. Yeah, I totally forgot.
And then like all the portals started opening. I was like,
that's exactly.
That's
like
every single time I watch it, I gasp like that. Oh my goodness!
I love that we're all on the same page for this. Jeff, what did you think about that moment?
Honestly, it was like so surreal because I've been waiting for it for so long that it almost feels like it didn't happen. I have to go see the movie again just to experience it, knowing it's going to happen and like fully enjoy it because and also Doctor Strange is so badass. Come on. Without him, they would have been.
Who? I'm sorry, you cut out. Who?
Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the MVP of Infinity War.
So much to say. Real quick before I forget. We knew that the snap worked because I believe Clint got the phone call from his wife. You saw the phone ring and he just picks up hello. I thought that was like really subtle and really well done.
All about the subtle
it
moments in
wasn't
this
like,
movie.
Oh, hey, you're alive. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
It was just like you see the phone ring and then you like. Chris Francese said you kind of forget what's happening. You see all your favorite heroes check in, the Asgardians, Spider-Man, all that good stuff. And then, like Jeff was saying, Doctor Strange checks in. And Doctor Strange kind of, he was a key player in Infinity War. Obviously, I wouldn't say on the bench in this one, but not really existing.
Yeah, he wasn't existing, yeah.
So when he kind of like gives Tony like a nod, like now's the time to do this unspoken thing because he explained
can't say it out loud.
Can't
yeah,
say it, the whole Doc Brown timeline.
Yeah, he says if I tell you what happens, it won't happen.
Yeah, which I like.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard with time travel. It's so tricky, man.
It really is.
I mean, the other thing with that too, I mean, he knows that he's gonna die, so he can't tell him you're gonna get the thing and do and do the snap and. That's it. He's got to let him do it.
Yeah, it's kind of just understood, I guess.
Yeah, and don't forget, in Infinity War, they had that whole thing where they first met. Like, they didn't get along at all, and he said, I won't hesitate to let you or the kid, in regards to Spider-Man, die to protect this time stone. So,
yeah.
At the end, in Infinity War, he actually does give up the time stone to save Tony, but also because he knows the outcome. He's seen all the futures. So
that's why I made $1 billion because Doctor Strange has seen it so many times.
Yeah. Really cool. But who did you guys like seeing flying out of those? I mean, Spider-Man, I think Black Panther were the big ones for me. Even seeing Batista as Drax again and Groot coming back and all the little character. But for you guys, who did you love? I mean, besides everybody.
In all honesty, because it's one epic thing after the other. Captain America gets the hammer. He hits Thor. You hear, look to your left. Just everything starts to happen
on your
all
left,
at once.
That was huge.
On your left is so big because you see Captain America's face and he doesn't realize who's talking to him. And he realizes it's Falcon, and then everybody starts coming back. So it's just everything happens at once, and then he says the line, Avengers assemble, and the Black Panther starts chanting, and it's just it's so epic.
Yeah. Chris, who did you like coming out of the portals?
One of my favorite things, and I liked her from Ragnarok. Seeing Valkyrie coming in on that winged horse, I thought was badass.
Oh, it was so cool.
It looked great. Everything.
Oh, it looked fantastic.
I think Chris Pratt. I don't know if you guys saw that video he posted where he's like, "I'm not supposed to be taking a video right now."
Nobody's going to tell Chris Pratt not to post it. But I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? And he's going around, and it's like all the actors. Some of them aren't even in their gear. But they're all just like kind of getting ready to shoot this scene or dress rehearsal in front of this green screen. And even that was like...
That's got to be the biggest ensemble cast in any movie.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There's so many big people in this movie, even if they're in it only for, a couple minutes or a scene or two. Like, it's got to be the biggest ensemble cast in any movie.
And even in that Chris Pratt video, I noticed some people that I didn't notice appeared. Like, I can't remember. The Yondu's kind of right-hand man from Guardians. I can't remember his name.
His name.
Yeah, I forget his name.
He's fantastic. And we really should know his name. I feel bad. Because he's fantastic. He was funny in that video. They take the video and he goes, "I'm pretty sure I'm the most famous person here." I was dying. Really good. Jeff, who did you like seeing coming out of the portals? And were you hoping to see Deadpool?
No, I didn't want to see Deadpool, to be honest with you, because I felt like it would have added too much comedy at a time when we really didn't need it. But I think my favorite was actually Doctor Strange. When he came out, he came out like such a gangster, and I was like, oh, this is when it's going to go down.
Yeah.
So I was really excited about him and Spider-Man, because when he went to instant kill, that was so badass. I was like,
Forgot about that. Yeah, I love the Iron Spider suit. Again, just a breathtaking, epic scene, guys. So much to cover. If you guys got anything else, please, feel free to chime in. But you guys want to talk a little Easter eggs? What do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Let's do it. So anything you guys got, even if it's a little something, I know there's going to be a bunch I forget. Obviously, all the cameos, the Rene Russos, the Natalie Portmans, everything. The movie in itself was a giant Easter egg and really well done. Man, there's so many like little lines and things too from other movies that came full circle, like certain things of dialogue.
Last night I was actually watching. I was like, let me throw on Captain America. I've been watching it a while, and the whole you're taking all the stupid with you. Was in
Yes.
Captain America.
Yes, that exact stuff like that. Yeah, like those one line. Good job, Chris. Awesome, really well done. But if you guys got any dialogue too, let me know. Something I noticed being a fan of the show Community, they've kind of filtered in certain characters from that show throughout the MCU.
Ken Jeong.
Yeah, right. Abed was in Winter Soldier, and Ken Jeong, who played Chang in Community, was the security guard in this one.
Yeah.
And he was actually the security guard at Greendale at one point in the show. That was good. And then the woman eyeing Tony Stark and Cap.
Yeah, with the big hair in the elevator.
Shirley from Community. She's fantastic. So again, you got 2 Community cameos in that one. So I was very happy about that.
I could be wrong, but I believe Hawkeye's daughter in the beginning, I want to say that's one of the Russo's daughters.
Is it? Yeah. Wow, good job, guys. And then one of the Russos was in the support group.
He was explaining the date.
Yeah, okay.
Joe, he was in the support group, and so was Jim Starlin, the writer and creator of Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet.
Wow, I love it. So much good stuff. And Jeff, you had a cool one kind of concerning Ant-Man. Go ahead.
Yeah, the storage cage that his van was in the beginning was listed as 616, which is the Earth realm that from the storyline that we've been a part of during these movies. And I think from the 90s, not 100% sure.
Yeah,
but
man.
yeah,
Good catch.
Earth realm 616.
What'd you guys think of Stan Lee?
I liked it.
Yeah.
Peace, not war.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah, all his cameos are great, yeah.
The other Ant-Man one was when they go back in time, the original Ant-Man helmet on the desk.
Oh, for Pym. Yeah.
Yeah, when he steals the particles, when he's going back to steal the
Good job. Another
Bluestone.
another,
The original Ant-Man style helmet is on the desk.
Nice. Michael Douglas, who they did
Man,
the
that
aging
hair.
bit. Yeah. They did the aging bit again.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to beat that RDJ one they did in Civil War, I think it was, where they
Believe so.
made him look super young. Oh my gosh, that was crazy. Another one I noticed. Did you guys? I got a lot of questions on this one. I figured it out right away. When they kind of do the close up of everyone at Tony's funeral,
Yeah.
we see a boy standing by himself, kind of towards the back.
Did not know who that was at first.
I figured it out immediately because I'm like, why is this boy here by himself? It's got to be I'm assuming it is the kid from Iron Man 3.
And that's exactly what I heard.
That's where my brain went because I'm like, why is this kid here by himself? Because everyone was kind of like with their team.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's with their crew.
Yeah, so really good. There's so many.
There is a lot. I'm trying to think of some, but there's so many.
Yeah, a lot of the one-liners. Anything else come to mind, guys?
It's kind of a sad one, but right before they go into the quantum realm to start the time travel, I think the last thing Black Widow says to Captain America is, "I'll see you in a second."
Oh,
Or be back in a second.
Yes, really
So.
good one, guys.
Yeah, the bumper sticker on the back of Stan Lee's car said "Nuff said," which is like typically in like Wolverine comics.
That's what. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got you. Really well done. Yeah, there's a lot. And guys, if you want to, check out more Easter eggs and stuff like that, there's a whole bunch. But I love watching those Easter egg videos. We'll probably watch one pretty soon from now. Mr. Sunday Movies, he's always got a bunch of good ones.
Okay.
Check out my buddy Nando versus Movies, Matthew Kelly. He always does a great job. He does essays on theories with movies and stuff.
Oh, I got you.
So
Okay.
he always comes up with good stuff for the superhero movies. So check him out for sure, guys. And gentlemen, should we call it a day here? Anything else we need to touch on?
I heard, and I'm sure it's not true, but it would be cool, is that whenever Thanos was putting the gems in his glove on Earth, there was like those gamma radiation bursts, and I was reading somewhere that someone said that could be the cause of the mutants exploding on Earth.
No.
And a lot more showing up. So, I don't know, just a thought, but...
Interesting. Nunez was saying something along those lines.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody. I had actually my barber. We talk either Marvel or Star Wars every time I go. But he had the theory that because Hulk snapped his fingers and he's filled with gamma ray, that's what caused the mutants. That when he brought everybody back, that some of them would have gamma ray in them or radiation, and that would cause the mutants.
So as far as casting, you think now, like the rumor right now, again, rumor is X-Men versus Avengers or something along. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know why we always got to make the heroes fight, guys. But I would assume it'd be like a new cast or something like
Probably.
that. Probably. If it's a whole new story.
I'm gonna say Doctor Doom. That's who I think it's gonna be.
Oh,
I hope so. Which means Fantastic
which
Four.
means Fantastic Four, which might mean Silver Surfer.
What about Secret Wars?
Secret Wars? Yeah, What do you got, Chris? Go ahead. Back to Avengers.
Storylines. Now that they have the rights to, some other properties, what else can they do? And
Right,
and to build up into something, another thing similar, kind of like what they just did.
yeah, it's like it's gonna be hard to top. First of all, now are we gonna see some carryover like? Avenger characters that we know and love, because from the look of the end credits, we kind of saw them kind of literally sign off with their autographs in those end credits. I'm expecting to see Thor and Guardians 3. I mean, hopefully, Cap and Stark. That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Clint, I'd probably say that's a wrap. Hulk, may check in somewhere.
It all depends on the situation and the villain. That if it's big enough, I'm sure some of them will come back.
And then Black Widow, we're expecting that one-off, which would obviously be some sort of prequel, which she's got a lot of stories to tell, so that could be really cool.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with that. To be honest, it has to be a prequel.
Did Loki start a whole new timeline too?
Oh, did Loki start a whole new timeline?
Oh yeah, because he brings the Tesseract back with him, and they never really explain it.
Was that how he had it in Ragnarok? Or in the Infinity War? Remember, he had it.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh.
But regardless, awesome seeing Loki back.
Yes.
The thing is, you know what? It does get crazy when you get the multiple timelines and the multiple Earths and realms
and the multiple people.
Yeah, exactly. Then it gets a little confused. Who's who? Which one's
Yeah,
the real
which
one?
one's one? Yeah,
It's like
which
that
one's what?
Spider-Man meme you always see where they're looking at each other. Yeah, where they're pointing at each
Well, the other thing is that Cap created a second one by staying there with Peggy.
other.
Yeah, so technically there's no Captain America in one of the timelines.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I get it's crazy, man. They kind of tried to dispel all that stuff when they made the Back to the Future jokes. I don't want to get into it too much, but I think they covered their bases. Again, really excellent movie. Oh, and one more thing I forgot. So did you guys all stay till the end credits?
Yes.
Well, I guess I was with most of you guys, but yeah. And at the end, no end credit scene, which has been a staple, but we did have the clanging of the iron, which...
Oh, I didn't hear that.
At the end, yeah, as soon as the credits are done rolling, you hear the ding, ding, ding.
Maybe like a 10-bell salute type thing.
That's what I thought, but it's definitely the sound of him hammering the suit in the cave from the first Iron Man.
Maybe just like a tribute kind of
That's what I
thing.
thought, like a 21 whatever, so clanks. But it was only like not even 10 hits. I don't know if there was a significance to that, but there's a lot of theories.
Well, I didn't even
Maybe it's
notice
his
that.
Daughter,
Maybe.
But obviously, a lot of doors open up for future heroes. I'm excited for it.
I just can't let it go without mentioning the setup for Adam Warlock and then nothing coming of it.
Go ahead. Yes. So what movie was it?
It was the end of Guardians 2.
Yeah, the end of Guardians 2. That's right.
They set up, the whatever that race and
the perfect race, like the perfect
race,
ones.
You have to have Adam Warlock. It's like, oh, it's Adam. I'll call him Adam, and then. I mean, my only assumption is everything that fell apart with like James Gunn with that whole, everything going on with him. They didn't make Guardians 3 before Infinity War.
So maybe it'll tie into that. And obviously we saw the trailer for Spider-Man today. Great point, Chris. We saw the trailer for Spider-Man today. Obviously we know what time that takes place, and we were kind of talking about it. I'm sitting to myself, Spider-Man reunites with his friend Ned at the high school. But wouldn't his friends have graduated if 5 years went by? But I believe one of the Russo brothers said that Ned also disappeared. But does that mean MJ disappeared too for this movie?
Yeah, that's where it gets a little confusing.
And the same grade, and so they got a lot of time travel.
Like Kate said before, like I guess high school stopped for a period of time because a lot of people disappeared.
Yeah, it's devastating. It's crazy, man. But
imagine being in school like 16 and you have a girlfriend, and then you come back 5 years later and she's 21. Like, that'd be so weird.
Exactly. I love that's where your mind goes, but yeah, man, exactly, bro. But yeah, really good stuff. And they're saying that Spider-Man actually may be the unofficial end of this phase or whatever. Which I thought was interesting.
They're saying that it is.
Well, that's very interesting to me. Why not end get this masterpiece of a film? Really good. But I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. Hopefully we covered everything. Really good stuff as always. Guys, if you have any questions, comment, hit me up on Twitter at Bob Culture Podcast. Guys, I got to thank the panel boys. You guys are always great. Always welcome back. And until Spider-Man, I almost said Homecoming, Spider-Man
Far From Home.
Far From Home. We'll see you guys next time. All right, boys, we're out. Peace.
Love you 3000.
Yes! Hey guys, thanks for checking out this episode of the Bob Culture Podcast. Don't forget to support the show on patreon.com/Bob Culture Podcast for some great incentives. I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons JayCrow, Shannon, Krus, and of course Mike and Michelle Vermillion from Sledgepad Innovations. Sledgepad is the bass drum dampening system used by national acts like Pink, Goo Goo Dolls, Cher, Collective Soul, and a whole bunch more. Check them out at sledgepad.com. And of course, if you're a fan of the show, please subscribe on YouTube, check us out at podbean.com, and leave me a review at iTunes.